We are in Gaffney, South Carolina at Freightliner having some maintenance things done and a couple things we didn't expect to do. But anyways, this video is about what it's like to be Sue and Mark, doing short little visits, and we're going to show you, talk about packing up here and going on to our next destination, and just this is a day in the life of a full-time RVer. Stick with us, we got a lot going on here. We arrived at Freightliner just a day ahead of our appointment. Met some great people while we were there, Karen and David. And our appointment is tomorrow, so we hung out with Pat and Paul while they had their work done. We all went over to the Freightliner factory tour, just 4 miles from the service center. The factory offers a daily tour Monday through Friday, and registration begins at 9:45 a.m. in the main lobby. Really interesting and great time spent while you're waiting for your coach.
There goes the gray bus, and Sue and I will have to drive every place we go now by ourselves. See you, Pat. See you, Paul. So I don't have the microphone on, but I figure I'm standing in the sewer dump area, so this is the safe zone. So this is Jeremy taking care of us. He's probably thinking, what is up with this customer taking videos of his rig going in? I might add that Myles is looking pretty good this morning, I think. Theoretically, this is just regular service that we're doing. And some of it's preemptive. I'm actually my own worst enemy many times on my costs. I am having an alternator put in because I had the lithium batteries installed. And I don't want to jeopardize burning out my alternator in the middle of somewhere. So I'll refresh the alternator. I'm trusting that the electronics is installed correctly, that it will limit the workload on the alternator. But nonetheless, the alternator being at the end of its life. So I want to take care of that. So besides one of the many reasons that Pat and Paul are great friends to have, not the least of which is they're the gray bus and they drive us all over God's green earth. Paul himself not only helps me fix this all the time, but he's like a canary in the mine shaft. Because Paul has a 2012 and we have a 2014, and when he started to have trouble with his Oasis system and had to have it replaced, about a year and a half later, guess who else had trouble? The Chan Man. So I had to replace that. That was $12,500. We did an episode on that. Sue can link that one up. When we were at Gaffney Freightliner, Paul had a failure on the road when he was in Canada of his alternator. The Chan Man is smart enough, and he put a new alternator in when I was at Gaffney just a few weeks ago. And I knew I was going to do that because that failure for Paul had happened a number of months ago. But when we were at Freightliner, Paul had to have some airbags replaced. He had to have 2 of them replaced. I had him look at mine. I had to have new airbags put on my tag. My drive airbags looked like brand new, and my front ones were bad. So I had 4 of the 6 replaced. So thank you, Paul, for being the canary in the mine shaft and always warning us on impending doom and how we should keep our wallet fully stocked. Back to you, Sue. So it's Friday, April 5th, and this is another day in the life of Mark and Sue. We recently did a video where we just walked around, and to our amazement, people liked it. And we're all about making videos that people like as we document our life, just not document our life and make videos that we like. So we're going to try this. We're going to show you what it's like to be us right now. Well, we're at Gaffney Freightliner. We just spent $5,503 having our yearly service done, and a couple of extra things thrown in here and there. But the real corker was that I needed 2 brand new airbags for the front suspension and 2 brand new airbags for the tag axle. So I think that added about $2,800 or something to that. So that's what we've been doing, and that's what it's like. Now, today, uncharacteristic for us, we have to dump on the fly. Now, we never go to dump stations. We're almost exclusively always in RV parks. And I don't know if you can see through here, but you can see those yellow poles over there. Very shortly, we're going to be driving over there. And you know, we got it pretty easy because this is not a real busy one. So hopefully we're not under duress where we got to do it real fast. You can see that we've got our garbage here packed up ready to go. We've got our container here that we use to set things on as we're driving. We got our brand new 10-inch Garmin here, which, by the way, Sue has her excellent tutorial and review of that thing. Spoiler, that thing is the ticket. We love that thing. But you can see all along here, once again, Sue doesn't like showing the messy rig. You know, when you move as much as we do, you're messy because you're moving, because you have to put things in places that they don't roll around and get damaged. But then if you're not staying long enough, sometimes you leave them there, you know. So I'm not going to say that we're messy people, but we're way messier than we used to be now that we're an RVer. You can see that here's our Magna shades. We didn't put them on today because we were only here a day or so. All the things that roll around are just on here. Sue's got everything in the sink here that normally would roll around. I want you to take note of this. How much of this stuff, this doesn't move at all. And it's just on the factory legs it came with. Now granted, in a really bad collision, these would all become projectiles. But when you've been living in your rig 7 years like we have, it gets a little tiring putting your toaster oven away for 7 years in a row. We just gave up. We just leave it there. Over here, this is probably one of the biggest pains, at least for me. Yes, I still have the fireboard that I put in the corner. And if I would have a fire, I'd be able to put it down and the old man will be able to get on it and take off. This chair here is a must for me and my back. Spend a lot of time in front of the computer, working on YouTube. That makes it possible. And then here, the bathroom, you can see that is the final catch-all for everything that we have to do. So I'm going to go outside now, and no, I think I'm going to start the rig up and air up and bring the slides in, and then we'll be able to get underway. Let's take care of that, Sue. So I wanted to mention 2 things that I neglected to tell you about. Was people have asked what these black things are in the floor. And technically we would have one somewhere around here, but we're not able to make it work. Where? These are plastic sheets that protect the floor tiles from the rollers. We have the old style Fred Flintstone slide, and when it comes in, it rides up a ramp and then it gets parallel to the floor and it rides in. And theoretically, the rollers are supposed to be, you know, that ever so slightly above the floor, but they're almost never that well adjusted. So once we get in here, the rollers are going to be sitting on this plastic. If you look real close, you'll see a wear mark right here where a roller goes. You'll also see a crack from the previous owner that did not use the roller protection, and probably had an adjustment problem way back when. So we put those in, and because we're lazy, remember I told you after 7 years of traveling, you start to streamline some of the things you do. We don't even take those off anymore. We just put up with them. We're trying to preserve this thing in as best shape as we can. This here is a file cabinet that Sue typically has over here. This desk comes all the way out to here, and we put that under, and it supports the desk so it's not a springboard. When I bring this slide in, this desk will go over it. It does restrict our movement back and forth, but that's just the way it is. All right, and now I'm going to put my jacks up. And once that's done, I'm going to start the engine to bring everything up to ride height. And that is the way Newmar prefers you to do things, in that order, when you have a full wall slide. And then you bring your slides in. You don't bring your slides in when you're on levels, when you're on your jacks, when you have a full wall slide. In my vintage year, 2014 Newmar Duster, there's literally a PIB-38 that tells you that from Newmar. I don't know at what year those instructions changed. That's the method we use. All right, put the jacks up, turn the key. You look over here, shows you that the jacks are all down. 4 little deals. You press the auto store button and you hope for the best. Okay, when I said hope for the best, I did not feel that jerk, and I'm like, oh boy, what am I going to get, a failure on camera? But it's pretty cold today, and I don't simultaneously start the engine like some people do, which would start inflating the bags. I like to set on the jacks. And you just saw there that I sat on them for a number of seconds before they broke loose, so to speak. I almost always spray the jack shafts with WD-40. There's plenty of folks that just heard me say that on the channel and go, oh, no, you don't use WD-40. Trust me, if you call HWH, when you retract the jacks, they want you to spray them down with WD-40. It's kind of a cleaning agent more than anything else to wash any dust and dirt off. The right way to do it probably would be to spray them and go under there and wipe them up. I'm not agile enough to do that. I also never turn this key off anymore when I get my travel mode assurance that all the jacks are up. When that blue light is still flashing, I leave it. And the minute it stops flashing over in the corner here, where the hydraulic mechanism is, you'll hear a click. That's when I turn the key off. One time in 7 years that we were driving, I had a buzzer go off on the dash, which told me one of my jacks was lowering. Now, I had visions that it was lowering and pretty soon I was going to have a catastrophe. What in fact happened is it came ever so slightly off of a sensor switch and then it turned on that buzzer. But trust me, when you're on the freeway and you're in bumper-to-bumper traffic at about 40 miles an hour and you're in the middle lane of about 4, figure that one out, and I had to get over to the left-hand side, that was pretty scary. So I'm pretty patient with the jacks now. All right, so what we waited for was the blinking to stop. You can see that I'm told, okay, you can go into travel mode. I'm now going to turn off that, and because I want to air up now on my airbags so I can bring in my slides, I am going to do this. I'm going to turn the key on. I'm going to watch my little squiggly here. You'll see the squiggly just went out. I think Sue might have missed it. That's okay. That told me the grid coil in the back has been heated. All my gauges have energized. I had a dashboard failure that happened one time when I did all that too fast, and I had to reset the dash by turning off all of the DC power, the salesman switch, all that kind of stuff, wait 10 minutes. I'm very careful now to not be too quick flipping switches and that. I let the dashboard think and energize and wake up. Once you start the engine, typically what you want to do, because it'll take forever normally for that buzzer to go off. That buzzer just went off because I finally went above the 60 or 65 PSI, which is, I believe, the minimum for my air. But my air normally is, I believe, 120 on both tanks. It takes forever to heat the engine up and inflate the bags unless you put it on high idle. You'll see my idle right now is, I don't know, 750, 800 RPM. if I hit the on for the cruise control and I hit set, it will essentially double the RPM. And now we will just wait until I hear the swish, the psh that happens when the tanks are at 120 and I know my bags are raised. If we don't hear that noise, or if I miss it, I just look. If I'm at 120, good enough. The only slide that I can energize, and this is different for all motorhomes, they kind of change their mind on the different models they make, but these switches here that I use to bring in my kitchen slide as well as my full wall slide. My full wall slide is 2 motors, and the amperage draw is enough that they've designed it so that it will come in when I'm running the engine, to have the alternator back there helping me. It will not deploy, or I can't open it when the engine is on, and that's a safety. Any of the other slides will not operate when the engine's running. Sometimes if I'm in a really level spot, I'll cheat. I'll bring the kitchen in, I'll bring the bedroom in, and then I start the engine up, the process to, get it the right height and bring it in. That way I can leave the engine running to continue to warm up. What I've got now is I've got the monkey business where I got to turn this off, bring the slides back in, only to turn it back on. So just one more revolution that I don't have to do. I want to say the last thing that I do, usually if we're sitting for a while, maybe a couple of days before we're going to leave, I'll turn on my TPMS and I'll check to see if I have a flat tire. I've already driven into a place, and while I was there for a number of weeks, I ended up getting a flat tire. Now, whether or not I had picked up a nail on the way in and didn't know it yet, and then during the time we were staying there, it went flat, that's a pro tip that I think you should adopt. Because if you know you have a flat tire a couple of days before you're going to leave, it's way handier than knowing you got a flat tire about 15 minutes before you're scheduled to pull out of a busy campground. Now it's the waiting game for the airbags. One of the main things that I came to Freightliner for is I wanted to get my alternator replaced. The alternator was actually working fine, but it was 10 years old, and I usually had about 13.7 volts, I think, it's running. Well, I had the Lithionics fancy battery, lithium battery setup installed, and I have a couple of apps on there from Lithionics battery, and this ACR is the automatic combiner relay app. And this shows right now that the alternator is charging my house batteries, and this is the voltages that things are happening at, and it seems to be slightly higher voltage than I had before. And you got to remember, my alternator was OEM, so it was put in this rig physically probably in about June of 2013. So the prevailing thoughts right now on the voltage, I don't know if mine was just slightly beat down, but I'm okay with this voltage. Looks pretty good. I'm hoping that sooner or later the little on-off relay shown there on the automatic combiner relay would in fact turn off and switch to do the chassis, or switch off totally to give the alternator a rest. I can look over here, 2 other numbers that looked bigger.
Since you did the alternator, you mean?
Yeah, since I did the alternator, 2 other numbers look a little bit bigger. We have a little digital readout here on the plug that we use to power our accessories on the dash there, and that typically was always hover in the 13 volt range when everything was having a good day. Likewise, this would never be more than about 13.7, and I can see now on my scan gauge, that's an extra gadget that I highly recommend. That gadget there is called the Scan Gauge D for diesel, and it literally, you buy that thing, it goes on with Velcro. You can program it to show 4 of your favorite settings, even though it's keeping track of, I don't know, 12 or 16 different things. And it's got a little cord that goes down underneath where your feet are, and you just plug it into the OBD port. I actually got that after I saw one of the channels that I watch is Next Exit. Bob and Pearl were driving, and they got kind of an older Monaco, like a 2008 or something, but it was such a high-end vehicle that back then on the dashboard it had a lot of electronic readouts on all sorts of different temperatures and things like that. And I was really interested in having the temperature of my transmission and the number temperature of my water, just not an idiot light, and the voltage of my alternator, just not an idiot light. And that's why I got that thing. It's in our Amazon store. It's really easy to install. Even I was able to do it, and it's so simple. You just plug it in and put it somewhere, and gives you a lot of information. All right, I think our airbags are up. I'm still running here. My alternator's still charging my batteries. Let me get over here. Those batteries are at 100%. All right, so let's bring a big slide in. Okay, remember I've said many times that I don't want to press the button the wrong way and jam the gears and bust everything up. So I'm bringing it in here. So I go in, so that when I press the button, I'm pressing the in button. Look at that. There it goes. It's coming in.
Statement happening.
Right. And this will be where the music quickens and I end up going to time-lapse fast mode. I'm going to shut the engine off. And I always do the one back here first, because I got room. Slides coming in, not out, in. So at this point, if you need anything in your bathroom, now you have to climb through here. And that happened to me a number of times when I was in National Indoor. I had to go back there and get something. And you got this board.
And you actually did it?
I did it like 3-4 times. Oh my God.
I'm so proud of you.
I had to take a nap. I was so exhausted by the time I did it. All right, here's the patented pantry door stopper. We just line the pillows up here. Want to hand me the red ones, honey? Okay, look at that. Look at the teamwork that Chan Man and Sue. We're like a finely oiled machine working on this thing. There we go. That solved that problem. All right. In. See, our file cabinet now is being contained where the legs are. There's the patented keep the file cabinet door shut against the
garbage can lock.
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, now what?
Well, I'm going to go take the garbage out and mail the postcard. And you, because you're an awesome YouTuber, you're going to actually flip the camera on and videotape yourself bringing in the electrical line so we don't leave with our cord plug in.
Oh my God. Right, there goes Mark. Take that garbage out. Okay, I'm going to be the awesome YouTuber and take the electric in. 7 years, and we've never taken off with our electric still plugged in. Although there are a few times that we were in starting ups and Mark sat down, and one of his tricks is he will leave, when he's done dumping tanks and stuff, he will leave this door wide open. That way when he's in there, and if we didn't unhook the electric, he'll see that door open and know, oh my God, the electric's still on. So we never drove off with it still plugged in though. So fingers crossed. How many of you have had that issue? We've never seen it happen, but we've seen some posts and other things that kind of indicated it happened. So anyway, so far, fingers crossed, we're doing good. Ooh, bugaboo. Yuckers. All right, we're gonna first turn it off, then pull it out, and unplug our watchdog. All right, We are ready to take it in. We've never left our watchdog behind either, so we've seen some though. It's our little thing. We try to keep rodents out after finding a dead one. It's like a rat, actually. When we were in California, we had it in a mouse trap. It was caught.
I mean, look at, I'm having trouble with the tools here.
You're nervous.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
So we try to keep them out with that. This is actually a two-hand job, so I can't hold my camera while I'm doing it, but I do usually hang on to this cloth, as you can see, just to keep the cord clean after dragging in dirt and dust, and then I push the button back here, so that's why it's a two-hand job. So all right, we'll catch you on the other side. So this is a lot of how we pack up as we're getting to take off, and we have been doing this for 7 years full time, but we are not experts. Everybody has their, oh, look at that reflection. Everybody has their own way of dealing and packing up and doing things with their rig. They're all so different, and we're still learning. I mean, 7 years full time, we are still learning. And there goes Mark.
I'm going to go look at my new alternator.
Oh, he's going to go look at his new alternator. Oh, let's go check it out. Are you loving it?
Well, I can't really see it, and I'm too lazy to look at it, so I'm going to just trust that I actually still have one. But he did say that it was really a tough job, that he had to actually disconnect my drive shaft for my side radiator.
I had to turn because that light was way too bright.
Yeah. So, okay, ladder down, this is on here, okay.
All right, next step, we're dumping.
Yep.
This is unusual.
Yeah. I hope we remember how to do it on the fly.
Yeah.
Got to kind of hold it back here and hope that I still have my connection. But you see how the chassis, the house and the chassis is at 13.9, and you see that switch off.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn the ignition on. Oop. Yeah, I wish it would be able to run up here in the cab. That would be nice.
Anyway, on to our mission of dumping the tanks.
So one of the things that I did, and I got to be careful here, I got 63% fresh right now. One of the things I did is I sprayed the bejesus out of that blue valve. It's never been cleaner. It's cleaner now than it was from the factory. We normally don't take on water on somewhere where the naughty water and the clean water is that close together, because trust me, there are a lot of people that don't get it, and they will put their sewer hose on there when they're done and rinse their sewer hose before they leave with the freshwater spigot literally touching the hose right to the spigot, because they don't really care. They're leaving. So I'm trying to do the clean jobs first, and then I'm at 67% water right now. I will fill to 100%. I used to go beyond 100%, but I've had that sea level gauge relocated since then when I had my freshwater tank put in at National Indoor. I'll put the video up in the corner. Now when it says 100%, I'm 100%. You'll notice here I got a little bit of a bath. I'm glad it was fresh water.
Okay.
The valve is leaking. You'll notice I also put a gauge on there. I don't trust any campground pressure anymore. I've seen them as high as 110 psi. That would just blow up everything on the inside. Typically those campgrounds, they warn you, but after that warning, you're on your own. I just got to remember to take it off because that gauge is $50.
So we're getting the minivan in position and letting the engine warm up a little bit before we hook up and take off. So once we have the minivan all hooked up, Mark goes through a procedure to make sure it's ready to pull. And then we go through a process to make sure all our lights are working, blinkers, brakes, and make sure the tow bar is engaged. So that's our next step. Right blinker looks good. Brakes look good. Brake lights on, mirror look good.
Take a look at the hookup. Why don't you look at the connections with the tow bar again, just to make sure.
Roger that, roger that. Looks good. All right, wheels are turning. That's a good thing. Tow bar locked in place. We're ready to roll. Oh my God, he's leaving without me. Marco! You gonna let me get on? Permission to board, Captain.
Permission to come aboard.
Roger that. Thanks, Captain.
And that's it for this episode of A Day in the Life of Mark and Sue, getting ready for the beginning of our travel season and just a part of what it's like to be full-time. As you can tell from our pack-up, we are constantly learning and changing the way we operate. And by the way, Pat and Paul did beat us to Freightliner. We lost that video on our dash cam, or maybe we're just too embarrassed to show it. So anyway, we are now on our way to NIRVC near Atlanta, and that will be another day in the life of Mark and Sue. We actually had an experience while fueling up that we never had happen to us before. So until we get to meet you on the road, in a campground, or RV repair place, we invite you to join us most Sunday mornings for another episode of Our Journey in Myles. Thanks for watching.